all the university students cannot get their degree without presenting their final bachelor thesis, and biomedical engineers are not an exception. That is why some university students from the Pompeu Fabra University have already started their artworks during the last months. But the beginning has not been straightforward. The COVID-19 pandemic has hampered their first steps. In the following videos, we are going to talk with some of these students who are actually working in different ways, since they are guided by different entities such as the university, the hospitals, or even private sectors. Today, we are talking with Anna Rifé and Jaume Puig, who are working under the supervision of college professors in an academic environment. So, let's see what they think about. First of all, thank you, Anna and Jaume, for being here. As you know, we will be talking about how you are doing with your bachelor thesis. And let's start by the beginning. I'm sure that selecting the topic of your bachelor thesis was not an easy task, and even more considering that you are in a global pandemic. How did you manage that?
Yeah, for sure the selection of the topic was the most challenging part. So it needs to be something motivating enough for you as you deal with it on your own during the whole year. So following the last year student's advice, before starting my last year of the degree in September, I really dug deeper into all the possible topics related to the biomedical engineering degree that I have studied and have been more interesting for me. So finally, it came to my mind the computational neuroscience optional subject, which I really enjoy. So by contacting the college professor in charge of the subject, I got more ideas of what I could do in his lab and which were his research areas. So it is true that the first contact with professors to find a topic of your interest is not as such a different thing as if we were not in the pandemic, but of course the discussion with the teacher would have been face-to-face. So nevertheless, considering the kindness and helpfulness of the researchers and professors, this part has not been an inconvenience for me.
Yeah, I agree. It is challenging to choose a topic that you have to work on for 1 year totally in your own. And in my case, I could say I was lucky because being part of the iGEM team for the university, I decided that I wanted to work on the synthetic biology field as I enjoyed it, but still had no idea of what to do. And luckily, it was in the end of August, more or less, I casually found an article on Twitter that gave me the idea that I later presented to my supervisor, and it developed into my thesis. And in my case, contacting my supervisor was not really challenging, since I was already working in the PRBP, and I had contact with him during the iGEM project, so it was no problem.
That's really interesting, and nice that your topics are really diverse. And depending on the field, maybe some facilities are needed. So are you able to work on your thesis from home?
In fact, my bachelor thesis consists of the analysis of behavioral and neural data of 2 macaques that are a type of monkeys. So performing a gambling decision-making task with the aim to study the role of the prefrontal cortex in encoding value and working memory. So, nevertheless, whatever topic you choose, the initial steps are the same. First, you need to do a lot of research on the previous work and gain strong knowledge from the literature to be able to defend your claims well. So this part has been and is very inspirational for me, and of course, it can be done from home, provided that you have a computer with internet access. So then in my case, the analysis of the data could be done also remotely. So for the time being, it has not been an appear problem to work from home for me. So let's see how I evolve. Also, I wanted to highlight that what has been very helpful for me is the weekly online meetings that I am doing with my tutor to get feedback and discuss the following steps and obtain results.
Yeah, regular meetings with my mentor are also being very important for me to advance in my thesis, and both online and face-to-face, since I have to go to the lab. And in my case, I need the access to the synthetic biology lab and the facilities, and even the hospital for some experiments I had to do. But I try to do everything I can from home and plan ahead to reduce the need of any facility or the lab and the time I have to spend there as much as possible.
And although you both are in really different cases, have you planned any strategy to move on with your project in case you need to be under quarantine?
Admittedly, I haven't thought about that. I don't consider I would have so many problems if I were confined. So for sure, my thesis has not a unique place to be done. So I just need the laptop, internet connection, motivation and knowledge, which of course can be gained as I advance on my thesis. So from my point of view, the students who are having more difficulties or need to follow strict schedules are the ones who are doing the experimental procedures and need whatever kind of lab. So as I already have the data, my location for studying it, analyzing and modeling is not in a special place.
Yeah, I will admit I haven't thought about that. But since for my thesis I do need access for the lab, my strategy would probably be to plan the next experiments or check the results obtained by the previous ones, or even start writing the thesis report. So basically it will be advancing in all the possible ways to speed up the thesis timeline.
And related with that, until now, have you had any problems either accessing facilities or even contacting with people?
As commented, researchers are usually very kind and helpful. So when I have any question and I need some kind of clarification or advice, people reply in such a polite and kind way. So they are like being dedicated to the research and wanting to help students. So then from my point of view, people are more aware of the need for an effective online communication, giving it like more importance and checking like every day the daily email inbox. So however, the weekly online meeting is being for me the most useful and relevant way to obtain feedback and have like a regular follow-up of your work.
Exactly. Everyone I needed to contact answered in a very short time and was very polite and helpful. So for me, at least, contacting was not a problem. However, although accessing the lab has not been a real problem, the timeline for the experiments has actually forced me to work late hours or Saturdays, even a couple of Sundays, which made me get auto-responsibility certificates every time I needed to do that. Due to the regulation of the pandemic. But still, I have not had any real problems for now, just obstacles that make working in a laboratory a little more challenging.
Okay, and let's look ahead over time now. Imagine that you have already finished your work and need to defend your thesis. In a normal situation, you would present your work on a stage, but under the COVID-19 pandemic, it is possible that you have to do it in a synchronous session. So which format would you prefer?
Undoubtedly, a face-to-face session would be of my preference, provided that all the measures can be guaranteed. So nevertheless, I understand that there will be a lot of people attending in the presentations of all the bachelor theses. Maybe all the safety cannot be totally ensured. So we will have to wait to see what will happen and how the vaccination evolves. But yes, a direct session is usually much better for me and also for the presenter and for the audience than a synchronous online one.
Yeah, in my case, I prefer the face-to-face session because I think it allows more of human interaction and feels more natural than online one. And in fact, I think that a presential session has the same advantages an online session has, and even more, but also avoids the disadvantages of online sessions, but yet safety goes first, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for your attention. I hope you have enjoyed the interview and also to see you in our future videos. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.